Are you not a patriot? Are you
I
not
mean, I thought
happy
these
at the
guys,
results?
I thought these guys cared about like leaked emails,
They did. They did when it was Hillary's. They sure
right?
cared when her stuff wasn't kept on that secure server that you were alluding to earlier.
Yeah,
You know, buttery males, buttery males. That's what these
yeah.
guys are, just buttery males.
What is really happening right now? What is really happening? What is the beef? What is the beef right now that's happening with this administration? Because he is the top head, and like any business, he you know exclaims himself as a proficient, excellent businessman. It all starts from the top. It all starts from the top. So if you're having there's holes in the business, like, well, who's on the chopping block first? It's him. But he's deflected this big thing that's been going on, which is this text thread. So there
Yeah.
was a text thread that was leaked to a journalist at the Atlantic, which is
Mm,
a publication, in news and a lot of op-ed pieces and stuff. They do really cool stuff. And what ended up happening is that this journalist was like, I don't think I'm supposed to read this. But I got it. I'm in this text thread. Now, in this text thread, there's the vice president, there's the secretary of defense, Pete Hegseth, the CIA director, Tulsi Gabbard. The initials are TG, which assuming it's her, but she is the national director of intelligence,
mhm,
Marco Rubio,
mhm.
um, a Treasury Secretary Stephen Miller, which is deputy chief. So pretty big. Like, I mean, these are the heads
Yeah.
of important
Departments.
heads
Yeah.
of the administration.
Yeah.
There's a couple other people here, but yeah. So really important people. Now, what ended up happening was that this announcement came out that uh, I got a leak, and I don't think I was supposed to get it, and that was the headline, but nothing
Hmm.
about what was in the text, right? So what
Yeah.
they did was
I saw
just
that.
really smart,
Yeah.
was they waited for them to say if this text thread was classified or not. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Because they,
they
they had a
waited.
hearing about it, right? There was a
Right.
congressional hearing about it, and they brought Tulsi Gabbard. I saw. I don't know who else they brought up. Who else did they talk to?
That the only people I saw Tulsi because she lied.
There was no classified material that was shared in that
So then, if
signal
there was no
check.
classified material, share it with the committee.
So that kind of
Oh,
gets
okay,
into
okay,
this next thing, which
okay.
it was like kind of a call your bluff thing, where it's like, okay, we have in our possession sensitive information. What can we do with it? It's not classified, right? Whatever. It's not classified. They went in front of Congress to say this wasn't classified information. It's a boo boo mistake, but it's not
Yeah.
classified.
And
Oh,
that
okay.
was the we didn't share war plans. That was that,
It
right?
wasn't,
Was
yeah,
that
it
her?
wasn't anything important that needed to be classified, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
the Atlantic called their bluff and like, oh, well, if it's not classified, we're gonna put it out. And then that was when they caught themselves in the lie, where it's like, oh, now that people read it, it's out there. It's like, oh yeah, this shit is classified. You guys outright lied about it, that it wasn't, to save yourselves, but then they had to retract it. And so now it's like a whole thing of like Tulsi Gabbard specifically lying, saying that she didn't even know what this was. Like that was her first thing. It was like, oh, I don't remember like what this text thread was.
Yes, ranking member. My answer yesterday was based on my recollection or the lack thereof.
For me, the whole thing of this is that in any company, that if you've ever worked in corporate America or any company for that matter,
Hmm.
and you have a work email, okay, everything that you do and send and all that stuff is it's not classified in terms of the government, but it is private information
Yes.
that if you deal with it, send it in the wrong way, in the wrong capacity, it is a fireable offense. Like you will get in trouble for sending work stuff that's not through your work email or whatever the case may be. Okay. That's number one.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
at like the base corporate level of like work and jobs, this is a big no no because they're using a regular app to fucking do government business on. Now, I don't work in government. I've never worked in government, but I'm assuming it must work like any high level place that you work at. One of the places that I worked at in my career was we had Microsoft as a client. When I worked for Microsoft, you needed to do everything through their channels. Okay, you
Hmm.
could not do anything outside of their channels. Okay, it had to be through Microsoft shit. It was password encoded, whatever the fuck. IT took my phone and put their own shit in it so they can monitor like all that. So this is what I'm talking about. Now,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sure,
yeah.
it's a process and it's a thing to go through,
Yes,
sure,
yes.
but that's their thing. That's the guidance that they have. They're set up to protect their work and their secrets because these corporate espionage and all this other shit that happens. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
now
of course.
let's elevate that to the level of government and war and all this shit that's like literally the people's lives here.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now so I'm assuming, like I said, I never worked at the government, but I'm assuming that they have specific channels that they need to use because of this shit because it's sensitive information. So I don't
yeah.
think
I
they
would
could
assume.
just use shit on WhatsApp or whatever the fuck it is. They use this something called Signal, which I'm guessing it's like a Telegram kind of situation. So it's like not using government channels to do this kind of work, and everyone's like in on it too. So there's no one here. We're talking about the fucking vice president of the United States. There's
Yeah,
no one here like at all at any point was like, maybe we shouldn't be fucking talking about this or discussing war plans through a chat, third party. Who the fuck owns it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so there's so many questions about like how they're doing this. Now, my thing is the broader picture here, and I'll make my point. The broader picture that I have here is that if this is how lax they are about this kind of stuff because they don't
hmm,
think that the rules apply to them,
hmm,
right? Because they're
hmm.
doing it however they want. They're like, no, this is the
Yeah,
easier way for us. We're gonna just do it this way. And then you get
yeah.
caught doing stupid shit like this. Number one, who else is like watching them? Like who's in on this that are like they're easy to the fucking journalist at the Atlantic was able to it get this information.
They
You know what I'm
invited him.
saying?
Yeah,
And that's not
yeah,
their
yeah,
job
yeah.
and it's not their job to be spies or court or like any of this like shit
No,
where it's like they literally actively are trying to get information because that's like they're trained to like dig in and hack and all that shit. And now we're in a world where that's a thing, and it's like they're so. What are these fuckers really doing? Like, what are they really doing? That this is just how kind of oblivious, and it's two things. And I'll finish my point here. It's two things. You're oblivious and dumb about how you do this, which is bad, or you're actively doing this because you know it's not the right way to do it, and that's bad too, like knowing that there's consequences and stuff. So there's two things: either you're a moron or you're actively fucking doing this shit because it's you know because you know you're not going to get in trouble or whatever the case may be. So it's like, what options are there that we they're not, neither of them are good. Either you're incompetent at your job or you're like actually evil and you're like,
you're evil. Yeah,
yeah,
well,
that's
that's
it,
what I was
that's
gonna
my
say.
point,
That's really it.
that's my point.
I mean, I was gonna say the same thing that like, you spent a good portion of that talking about how like it's incompetence and stuff like that. And my thing is like I don't think it's the incompetence is it comes into play where you take into account that they invited someone who wasn't supposed to be on that thread, right? That's incompetence. That's I think the
Hmm,
most
hmm.
glaring and the only bit of incompetence there. I think everything else was purposeful, right?
Hmm,
Using this
hmm.
outside backdoor channel to have a conversation. That way, it's not saved anywhere because Signal is a platform where you it's kind of like Snapchat. You have you do your dirt. You
Mm.
look at the nudes, you rub one out, whatever it is you're doing on Snapchat, and then whatever messages you were sending back and forth goes away after a certain amount of time. Signal
Oh wow, I
operates in
didn't know
much the
that.
same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. So
So
why are they doing it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Why are they
exactly. That's
doing
what I
it?
think. I
Right.
don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both. I think the incompetence is what alerted us to their actions. Right. That's inviting a journalist into the group chat. That's the
Hmm.
incompetence part.
Yeah.
The malicious evil part is the fact that they were operating in this backdoor channel digitally. Because here's the thing: today it was the Atlantic person who was a mistake, and tomorrow it's the Putin representative or Putin himself or whatever who is not a mistake. And if we didn't have the mistake of the Atlantic guy coming in, we wouldn't even know there's a possibility that they were having group chats with people who they shouldn't be having conversations with, right? Because that
Mm,
is the only reason you would use Signal, is to talk about
mm,
stuff that you don't want recorded,
mm.
talk to people you don't want, trace back to conversations being had,
Right.
deals being
That's
made.
the transparency thing is non-existent in this
It's
administration.
non-existent on purpose too. That's
Yeah.
where, you got Pete Hegseth. I saw a video of him when somebody asked him about it, and they were like he was like screeching about how, like, I'm very proud of the operation and the men, and the warriors who
Mm.
went out there and did what they did. And it's all deflection, right? It's all deflect. How dare you question me? Are you not a patriot? Are you
I
not
mean, I thought
happy
these
at the
guys,
results?
I thought these guys cared about, like, leaked emails.
They did. They did when it was Hillary's. They sure
Right.
cared when her stuff wasn't kept on that secure server that you were alluding to earlier.
Yeah.
You know, buttery males, buttery males. That's what these
Yeah.
guys are, just buttery males.